Please join us to learn more about the history of Hale County. Creating a presentation of the history of Hale County to show in a short period of time was a daunting task. Not because it's a long history, only about 150 years, but the years are filled with color, characters, and challenges that the pioneers had to endure to create this place we call home. Everything shared with you today can be found in the 2-volume set of Facts and Folklore of Hale County compiled by Vera Lee Wofford and copyrighted in 1978. Also, the History of Hale County, written in 1938 by Mary Lee Cox, the inscriptions of Texas state historical markers, and the online archives of the Plainview Herald. For hundreds of years, Native American Indians populated the Texas Panhandle. In 1874, the final battle of Palo Duro Canyon was led by General Ronald McKenzie. The last of the Indians in the area were driven back to the reservation, and this phase of Indian life came to an end on the high plains. An historical marker honoring General McKenzie is located on the County Courthouse Square. Soon came settlers, first solitary, then in groups. The first post office in the area was named Ephraim, which dates back to 1881 and has a direct link to the town of Edmondson. Although the exact original site has been lost in history, it was somewhere in the first ranch in Hale County, the Cross L. Attracted by abundant water from Running Water Draw, the ranch was established by T.W. and J.N. Morrison in 1881. Ephraim, with Ephraim Cone serving as postmaster, was established June 27, 1881. In 1884, Dennis and Martha Rice purchased several sections of land along the draw south of the site. Rice hoped to start a town and lured the railroad across the land. He began Wadsworth Post Office in his dugout in 1890. It was renamed Running Water in 1891. Rice organized Running Water Townsite, an investment company, and staged a picnic and barbecue on July 4, 1892, for the purpose of selling town lots. Soon the community had a blacksmith shop, grist mill, and 2-story store building, pictured here, several residences and churches. The early one-room schoolhouse was later replaced by a brick structure. Although the Fort Worth and Denver Railroad bypassed Running Water in 1928, it remained a thriving village for several years. In 1935, the post office moved from Edmondson's Switch on the railroad, and many residents were relocated here. In 1937, the name of the settlement was changed to Edmondson. In 1883, the first permanent settlement was founded in the county by Horatio Graves, 1.5 miles southwest of what is now Hale Center. It reads from the inscription on the historical marker from the site of Epworth, quote, "Graves carried the mail from Estacado and sold supplies to settlers and XIT ranch cowboys. In 1891, he moved the post office several miles north of New Epworth, but drought caused the site to be abandoned in 1893. The residents joined with those of Hale City to form Hale Center." Okay, let's go. In 1886, Z.T. Maxwell moved with his family and 2,000 sheep from Floyd County and established a farm on what is now northeast Hale County. About the same time, Edwin Loudon Lowe from Tennessee took up residence north of the Maxwell homestead. Enticed by the possibility of founding a town, Maxwell and Lowe secured a post office on March 18, 1887. Lowe was the first postmaster. The names Running Water and Hackberry Grove were rejected in favor of Plainview, which was Lowe's choice, since the vast treeless plains surrounded the post office. The town received a charter on July 3, 1888. Plainview became a county seat when the surrounding 979 square mile area was officially organized as Hale County in August of 1888, despite moderate competition from Hale Center. Lowe died on July 13, 1889. Maxwell moved away in 1892. Pioneers continued to arrive, seeing the green trees and the rich land, and settled nearby. first Plainview schoolhouse was built in 1887, the year the town was founded. Located northeast on this site, it was a half dug-out side building similar to many of the pioneer homes in the area. Built by local men under the supervision of Judge J.M. Carter and Colonel R.P. Smythe, the structure also served as a community center and was used for the organization of two local churches. In 1889, the Plainview Masonic Lodge constructed the two-story frame building west of the site. The second floor was used for a lodge, meetings, and the ground floor occupied by the school, which became known as the Lanao Estacado Institute for Male and Female in 1893. The building served as a schoolhouse until it burned in 1902, shortly after the organization of the Plainview Independent School District. The elementary school was renamed in honor of the noted leader, Mirabeau B. Lamar. The first Hale County Courthouse was built on the other side of the street, west of the courthouse square. It was completed in November of 1888. Used for only 2 years, the building was subsequently sold to Dr. J.W. Whalen for use as a drugstore when the second courthouse was constructed. In 1888-89, the first jail was a small sod building of one room built on a lot now on the corner of 5th and Baltimore. Within a year, the town grew to a population of 75, had a hotel, a Methodist church, and Thornton Jones grocery store in a tent on the west side, east of the courthouse. Early settlers in the area kept in touch with the world by picking up their mail at railheads. Federal mail delivery to post offices began when W.L. Thorpe took the route from the new railhead town of Amarillo to Plainview and Estacado in July and August of 1888. There were no roads. The round trip took about 6 days. About 1889, W.H. Fuquay of Amarillo, who had a new U.S. mail contract, used a compass and laid out a route with several stations, one at Plainview. He soon added passenger service, but then disposed of the line, which about 1890 fell into the hands of Stant Ray and Robert Montgomery. Buying out Montgomery, Ray carried the mail for 19 years. Stant Ray was a small, red-headed man who drove wild Spanish mules hitched to a buckboard or carriage. He made the 240-mile round trip from Amarillo to this area 3 times a week. With later route changes and better roads, he came this way daily, 6 miles east of the spot where he had a mule corral and a dugout. Stage passengers and mail patrons used the dugout as a waiting room. Until the railroads outmoded his service, Stant Ray's route and stand were important to the development of the South Plains. That's better. Built around 1888, this small frame building is considered Plainview's first hotel. It was located in what is now the 400 block of Ash, directly behind what was recently McPherson Computers. The photo on the bottom is a building for the Mansion Hotel being moved from Dimmitt, 45 miles away, into Plainview in 1893. It was supported by 8 wagons that were pulled by 32 horses. Businesses along the street include a hotel, Mrs. M.B. Fowle Dry Goods, Notions, Millinery, etc., and City Drugstore owned by Dr. Wayland. In 1893, Plainview had 4 churches, 2 hotels, a seminary, a newspaper, stagecoach service, numerous businesses, and a population of 250. The second Hale County Courthouse was constructed in 1890 and served until the third and current courthouse was built in 1911. Shown here is a Sanford fire insurance map dated 1910, showing the third courthouse under construction and the second courthouse just to the west, across the street from the first courthouse on the west side of what is now Broadway. Fire insurance maps from the Sanford Map Company were used by insurance companies to access the low total liability in urbanized areas of the United States from 1886 until the mid-1970s. Copies of the Sanford maps of Texas can be found at UT, Austin Library, and on various websites online. The history of the Plainview Herald newspaper goes back to October 1889, when early settlers D.B. Hill and John Davidson published the first edition of what was then called the Hale County Historian. In 1891, John Minor Schaefer, another Plainview area settler, became the owner and publisher. Incidentally, John Schaefer's daughter is the mother of Jack Oswald, the owner of the Haven, formerly Old World Antiques. The newspaper remained a Schaefer family operation until 1912. The name was then changed from the Hale County Herald to the Plainview Herald, and later to the Plainview Daily Herald. Consolidation with the Plainview News in 1929 allowed for continued growth and expanded coverage. In 1978, the Daily Herald was purchased by the Hearst Corporation, which remains the parent company today. A rural post office was first established September 9, 1891, about 5 miles northeast of what is now Petersburg. It was in the home of Captain Zach Peters, whose wife Margaret was the postmaster. Ed M. White built the first house at the present site of Petersburg about 1895. When the Peters family moved from the area in 1896, White assumed the postmaster duties. In 1898, the first schoolhouse was built. In 1902, White operated the first business in Petersburg, a general mercantile store. The settlement was incorporated in 1927. After the arrival of the Fort Worth and Denver Railroad in 1928, Petersburg became an agricultural marketing center for the area. Shown on the left, the First National Bank of Plainview, first bank in Hale County, was chartered in 1900 by L.A. Knight and J.H. Slato. The photo on the right is of the first stucco above-ground houses in Plainview as it was being demolished in 1964. A front-page article in the February 21, 1964 edition of the Herald recounted some of the storied history. Built by R.M. Eyrick about 1900, the Herald noted that most of the lumber used in the 6-room stucco house at First and Ash had to be hauled from Amarillo by freight wagons pulled by teams of either 10 horses or mules. When completed, the residence was a large, spacious house for the times, containing 6 rooms and a large front porch. Located across the street from Broadway Park and on the north edge of Running Water Draw, Eyrick also used lumber from the first wooden residence, a 4-room structure, to build his new home for his family. In 1905, Dr. J.H. Whalen started construction on the Whalen Building, a 2-story masonry building at the southeast corner of 5th and Broadway. Completed in 1906, it was described as the first fireproof business building between Amarillo and Abilene. The ground floor housed a bank on the north side, the Plainview Post Office on the south side, a movie theater in the middle. On the steps of the broad staircase leading to the second floor, which housed the medical offices, drugstore, and the Texas Land and Development Company offices, was the inscription, Dr. Wayland, M.D., upstairs. Following the arrival of the railroad in 1907, Wayland remodeled the building into a hospital. But the resulting strenuous pace began to take its toll. In 1919, Wayland converted the office building hospital into a hotel with 28 guest rooms, and due to declining health, retired from active medical practice the following year. The building was demolished in 1960 to make way for the J.C. Penney building. The arrival of the train in early-day Plainview was an important occasion, as noted by the number of horse-drawn wagons and automobiles in the picture of the brick building depot built in 1910. The first train arrived December 31, 1906, one day ahead of the contract deadline. After many years of planning and negotiating with the railroad by Plainview business leaders, it was a watershed event in the community's development. The coming of the railroad brought an agricultural boom for Plainview and the surrounding area. With the coming of the railroad, Plainview was on the move. The city of Plainview was incorporated March 12, 1907. Harvest Queen Mill was also established in Plainview in 1907. The Pioneer Flour Mill was built by the Jones brothers from Indiana. An inexperienced miller, Jones soon became discouraged and about 1910 sold the facility to Albert G. Henn. He was quickly joined by his father, Charles Henn, who had more than 40 years milling experience in Wisconsin. The original wood frame Harvest Queen mill was destroyed by fire in January 1926, but it was rebuilt later that year into a larger facility. There are many chapters in the history of the processing and producing of different materials. In 1985, Harvest Queen sold to Archer Daniels Midland, also known as ADM, and was closed in 2012 when producing wallboard for construction. Central Plains College and Conservatory of Music was founded in Plainview in September 1907 and was soon bought by the Methodist Church and renamed Seth Ward College. Successful years followed until the entire college complex of 3 buildings burned in 1916. The historical marker is located on the grounds of Plainview Methodist Church. Businessman Levi Hchc, who lived from 1855 to 1936, launched the Hchc Opera House in this building on October 11, 1909. A traveling opera company opened the facility with the performance of Little Dolly Dimples. Later attractions included vaudeville acts, musical programs, and plays. The Opera House also served as a showcase for local talent and a site for public gatherings such as graduation ceremonies. Known for the fine acoustics, the auditorium seated about 900 persons. Hchc Opera House remained the area's cultural center until 1920, when competition from motion picture caused its decline. Abernathy was founded when Santa Fe Railroad was extended from Plainview to Lubbock in 1909. Named for Monroe G. Abernathy, treasurer of the South Plains Investment Company, the firm which promoted the town site became a major railhead for the shipping of cattle. Several buildings from the defunct town of Barton site were moved here and new ones were built. On December 17, 1909, the first state bank in Abernathy opened, and on January 13, 1910, the first post office was established. The community prospered, and today the economy is agriculture-based. Wayland Baptist College, now Wayland Baptist University, was established in 1909. Dr. John H. Wayland gave 40 acres of land and $10,000 to found the Baptist School in Plainview. Shown here is the original administration building of Wayland Baptist College. It was built 1909 to 1910 in the term of the first president, Dr. I.E. Gates, for whom it is named. The population of Plainview reached almost 3,000 by 1910 when the economic district housed nearly 90 businesses, including 20 land agencies. Once considered among the most elegant in West Texas, the Ware Hotel opened for business in 1910 on the site of the former Donahoe Ware hardware store. The facility was constructed of reinforced concrete at a cost of $125,000, about $3 million today. It was 3 stories high and contained 75 rooms and 19 bathrooms. In 1925, a 4th floor was added to bring the total number of rooms to 100. It ceased operations in 1966. Hale County purchased the building in 1974, and today it is the county courthouse annex. Led by J.L. Wyckoff, president of the Plainview Commercial Club, a precursor to today's Plainview-Hale County Economic Development Corporation, he saw a potential of irrigation during the 1910 visit to New Mexico. Local banker and farmer J.H. Slayton agreed to bear the cost of the test well sunk on his land if it succeeded. In 1911, George Emmett Green dug Hale County's first irrigation well on the J.H. Slayton farm, reaching a commercial yield of 1,400 gallons of water per minute. This won him fame, as irrigation has long been considered the missing ingredient in the South Plains agriculture, the key factor that would enable the fertile land to produce foodstuffs and fibers to supply millions of customers. The 2-story brick building completed in 1911 at the northeast corner of 7th and Austin housed Plainview's City Hall, firehouse, and police station. The Herald, in reporting on the structure's May 4, 1911 dedication, noted that the large crowd attended the day-long dedication ceremonies and supper which followed. The day's story explained a crowd that overtaxed the capacity of the roomy two-story building was elegant proof of how proud Plainview is of her public structure and how loyal she is to her fire boys. The imposing structure housed the municipal offices until 1951, when the central fire station in the 200 block of East 6th Street and the fire substation at 10th and Quincy were completed. The municipal building was demolished in 1969, 2 years after the new City Hall and police station were completed in 1967. Hale County's third and current courthouse was approved by voters in a bond election in 1908, and the contract for its construction and fixtures was let on November 23, 1909. It was completed in 1911. Upon its completion, the jail was moved into the basement, where it remained until a new brick jail was built in 1925 on the southeast corner of the courthouse square at a cost of $48,000. There have been many updates and renovations through the years. The replacement of the HVAC system was recently completed. The Texas Land and Development Company was an operating company for a series of parent companies chartered in Canada and organized in Plainview. In 1912, originally located in the Wayland Building, in 1915 it moved to the newly constructed Ellard Building on the corner of 7th and Broadway. The development involved a large tract of land divided into individual farms and preparing each farm for occupancy. Preparation included the erection of appropriate dwellings, cultivation of at least 1/4 of each farm for alfalfa culture and sorghum culture, and the installation of an irrigation system. The company bought and developed land in Hale County, Floyd County, and Swisher counties. The company did not sell all of its land until 1946. However, 10 years later, on January 31, 1956, it officially closed. The original Plainview High School at 5th and Date graduated its first class in 1904. It was replaced in 1916, located in the 1200 block of Galveston. The building that served the community as a high school for several generations was razed more than 20 years ago. This is taken directly from a 2008 article in the Herald as a part of the Looking Back series written by Doug McDonough. City fathers had at least two ulterior motives in mind in 1921 when they successfully promoted the idea of that Plainview needed a large municipal auditorium. First, they wanted to showcase the city as the host of the 1922 West Texas Chamber of Commerce Convention. Second, they were hoping to use the convention as a springboard for the city's bid for the proposed Texas Technological College. In 1922, the convention reportedly came off without a hitch, but Plainview lost out to rival Lubbock for what would eventually become Texas Tech. Nevertheless, the 3,000-seat Plainview Municipal Auditorium served as the site of most community functions for more than 40 years before being leveled in 1963 to make way for the new City Hall. The large building also provided office space for the Plainview Chamber of Commerce and housed the Plainview Public Library for many years. The Unger Library opened in 1960. The Downtown Theater at 717 Broadway was constructed in 1923 and opened as the Plainview Theater in 1925. Built near the close of the silent movie era, the fair holds the distinction of being Plainview's first talkie picture show. It also hosted vaudeville acts, including one that featured a live elephant on stage. Operating into the mid-1960s, the Fair Theater, under various names covering a full spectrum of movie genres, continued to draw die-hard movie patrons until the early 1980s. Sitting idle for at least a decade, the stately Fair Theater was suffering from abandonment and decay. In 1995, local businessman David Wilder headed the project to renovate and restore the theater using volunteer workers and creative fundraising. The grand opening was celebrated in 1999. Today, the Fair Theater offers a venue for plays, musicals, movies, symphonic performances, as well as space for birthday parties, weddings, business meetings, and seminars, and comes complete with access to lighting and sound system and a large projection screen. Henry E. and Nora Skaggs moved to Plainview in 1901 and soon opened the H.E. Skaggs Realty Company. In 1921 and 23, he purchased various lots that encompassed the northwest corner of 7th and Broadway, with plans to replace existing sheet metal store buildings with a modern office complex. Unfortunately, he died on May 28, 1926, following gallbladder surgery. But his widow, Nora Skaggs, moved forward with her husband's dream. During construction in 1927-28, most of 7th Street and part of Broadway were blocked, and crowds of spectators gathered often to watch. The building was completed in August 1928, which its principal tenant, Plainview National Bank, formerly Third National Bank, opened immediately. The Granada Theater opened in 1929. Is one of the greatest movie houses in Texas. Styled after a Spanish courtyard, it remained a unique showplace until the late 1970s when it was converted into a twin theater and much of its original interior gutted. The newly christened Granada Theater Twin continued operating until September 1997 when it closed for good. In 2014, the current owner launched an attempt to revitalize the theater, but ultimately, due to its failing roof and interior structure, the effort was abandoned. Can you hear them? The 8-story Plainview Hilton was completed June 4, 1929, and opened to the public a month later. Total construction included 125 guest rooms and 125 bathrooms. Its main floor included the hotel office, check room, porter's room, dining room, drugstore, barbershop, and coffee room. The mezzanine contained several private dining rooms, a lavish ballroom, writing room, and lounge. More than 300 guests attended the grand opening on July 3, 1929. Unfortunately, the Great Depression put Conrad Hilton in financial trouble, and he was forced to sell the hotel. It changed hands several times over the years, but it continued to operate as the Hilton Hotel until March 16, 1983, when the hotel closed due to numerous city fire and safety code violations. The building stood empty for a number of years, but thanks to the hard work of city leaders, it opened again in 2017 as Conrad Lofts, with some 27 1- to 3-bedroom apartments in downtown Plainview. On May 16, 1932, the Herald wrote, quote, "The contract for construction of the new Plainview Post Office was awarded today to W.B. Smith of El Dorado, Arkansas for $87,750. It was the lowest of 24 bids. Smith has 390 calendar days to complete the job," end quote. The 2-story reinforced concrete brick veneer building was completed in 1932 as a work project administration project by the U.S. government. It is the first and only permanent facility of the U.S. Post Office in Plainview. With the exception of the WPA construction of the post office, most construction halted at the start of the Depression and did not pick up until after World War II. Post-war Plainview started growing again, but to the west of downtown. It wasn't long until downtown Plainview businesses followed their customers to the newly built neighborhoods, strip malls, and shopping centers. All over the county, businesses would come and go. But it is the task of the Hale County Historical Commission to track, maintain, and preserve information, creating awareness and appreciation for historic preservation.